Yo, what is going on, guys? Make sure I have the right microphone selected there. Okay. All right. So let's get into this. Sorry, I'm a little late. I wanted to start at 6, but let's see, what time is it now? Yeah, it's almost 6:30. Oof. Yeah, I got caught up with other content. So, but anyways, we are here finally, and there's an interview that I saw a little earlier today. And for those of you who don't know, the guy on the right here is Nate from Valhalla VFT, and the guy on the left is Keith Edwards. Okay, so I don't know much about this interview, but I thought it was interesting, and they talk about a few different things, mainly just to talk about MAGA. But I thought it was interesting enough, and I wanted to cover it with you guys live. I've only seen a few minutes of it, maybe about 8 minutes or so, but I wanted to jump into this with you guys. So before we get started, let me give a disclaimer. So there's 18 plus stream, 18 plus channel. If you're here under the age of 18, ensure that you have your parent or guardian's permission to be here. If you don't, I'll have to ask you to leave the stream. Appreciate it, guys. All right, so yo, Garrett, what's up, man? Welcome in, everybody. Hope you guys are having a beautiful Tuesday night. We are going to go ahead and get into this. So let's see what these guys have to say. Oh wait, I should say, well, never mind. They will introduce themselves.
I'm so excited to have a guest with us today, and that is Nate Kornacki, who is a retired Green Beret who served a decade in the U.S. Army Special Forces. You might know him right here from YouTube. And Nate is currently the host of the YouTube channel Valhalla VFT. Nate, thank you so much for joining the channel.
Yep. Yeah, thank you for having me. Like I was, my audience I know is excited.
Oh, by the way, how's it going, guys? How's everybody doing today? I probably should have asked that from the start. Hope you guys are having a great day. Let me know where you're watching from. How you guys are doing.
We have a lot of crossover audience, and I know I was just telling Keith. I actually reached out to Keith about a month and a half ago and asked to collab. So, and I think he missed it. So we ended up working it out. Glad to be here. We can talk.
Yeah, I'm glad we did. I mean, we get so many emails. It's actually kind of insane to imagine. But I'm glad we were able to connect, and I'm glad you're here. We got a lot to talk about. We have we're getting reports about the troops and their awful, terrible conditions that have come out. And we've got photo evidence that was in April. Now we just have more reporting on that. And we, of course, I mean, it's not a week in Trump's America if we're not talking about a Republican being accused of being a homosexual. And we have that coming. We have that coming up too.
On my channel, we call it the closeted homosexual Republican politician crisis. It's an actual crisis at this point, for sure.
It's an issue.
So what interested me the most about this interview was the living conditions when it came to the troops in Iran. Right. So they go to talk a little bit about the aircraft carriers doing all right, just watching from the okay, that sounds good. Make sure you are staying in bed and resting. Okay, try to rest up as much as possible. All right. I'm glad you're doing all right though. And as someone who is a veteran myself, right, we always didn't have the best living conditions. Now a lot of people would shit on me for being in the Air Force, but being security forces, we were pretty much the ground guys, right? When you are security forces, let me just say this. Okay, so when you're in the military, and you work as a sentry, your life isn't exactly spectacular, regardless of branch, right? So, anyways, I did a video a while ago covering how chair force, exactly. Hey, look. On the weekdays we were pushing chairs, okay? On the weekends we were chilling at our hotels, okay? So we did do some work, all right? Anyways. So I did a video a while ago covering a shorts clip of this sailor who was talking about being on a carrier and how claustrophobic the conditions were, right? How limited space there was. And I made a video about it. And the only thing that I was ever really talking about was that, hey, look, when it comes to taking care of our troops, right? Giving them the proper conditions that they really deserve, right? How about we sacrifice more uh more space, right? To carry less munitions, right? Because it's supposed to be more about aircraft, right? How about we sacrifice a little bit more of that and I don't know, give give more supplies for our troops, right? Because without our troops making sure that the ship maintains proper function, we can't put those aircraft out there, right? So the entire thing depends on the morale of the troops and the functionality of the troops, right? And a lot of that comes off of the morale. If the morale is low, performance is going to be low, right? So you would be surprised at how many people were shitting on me in the comments, right? They were calling me a pansy. They were disrespecting my service, and this was coming from other veterans too, right? That was the most disheartening thing when I made that video, right? But it's so true. It's so true. The troops are oftentimes considered last when it comes to the military because at the same time we're just considered a number. We're not considered actual people, right? One of the biggest examples of this is whenever a troop has maybe mental health conditions, right? Or maybe maybe they're having a rough time. They're often told to set that aside for the mission first, right? And I understand that at times, but when it's every single time, that's like one of my friends was coming back from a fast mission. For those of you who don't know what fast is, it's pretty much where you go on different select missions, right? And you come, and that's your deployment. You come back, and he came back, and he was wanting to seek mental health, and they turned him away because what he needed to talk about, he couldn't talk about, right? So, and I'm like, dude, the whole reason that mental health is there is to help us. And you're turning him away, right? Because he can't talk to you guys about it's absolute horseshit, you know? Like I talk about this all the time, and every single time I do, oh, you're just an America hater. You're just a leftist woker. You don't care about America. You don't care about our troops. I'm like, bro, the reason why I'm talking about this is because I care about our troops, right? You're just one of those dumb boomers that doesn't give a fuck about America or American troops unless it agrees with your politics, right? That's what pisses me off the most when it comes to not just regular everyday Americans, but also veterans. Veterans have this same mentality too. If you don't agree, right, with the collective hive mind, then you are ostracized. You are attacked, ridiculed, mocked, laughed at, and it's incredibly I hate it, man. I really do. And a lot of this is veteran culture, or I should say very widespread, unfortunately.
It's an issue, one that I hope to resolve.
Sorry, we do have, for the viewers, we got some fun stuff to talk about because one of my close friends works at the very top of Grinder. He's got a C in front of his title. We'll just say that. So I got some inside information we can drop on that one.
Wait. Okay, I can't. All right, I have a million things to ask. We'll get to that. We'll get to that later. Yeah. Let's get to first with what's going on with what is called the USS Lincoln that is in the Arabian Sea.
Yep.
I'm going to bring this up.
Oh wait, by the way, sidebar. So this just came out a little bit ago, but as I'm eating here, I put perhaps a little bit too much salt. Perhaps a little bit too much salt in my meal prep here. If you guys want to know how I make my meal prep, just ask. I'll be more than happy to let you guys know how I make it. It's really good. It's really good for dieting too. So it reminded me of the story that came out about the American Heart Association trying to stop a study that was put out by the Lance something, I think. Anyways, in this study, it was about how a high salt diet actually helps your liver and other organs function properly, right? Don't ask me how the whole deeper details of it. I don't know. I'm not a health professional, and I didn't particularly take too much of a deep dive into the study. But I do know that this came out, and the American Heart Association was going to sue the Lance for this study, and so it just reminded me of that. So fuck the American Heart Association. Eat more salt. That's what I want to say. And on the side note of carriers, they do need munitions and fuel for the aircrafts, so don't exactly cut. Well, it's not. It's not. So what I'm talking about, I guess I should have clarified, right? When it comes to aircraft carriers, right, or maybe just destroyers, munitions and aircraft obviously are a big thing. However, right, there are a number of things that they could improve upon, right? Because there are a number of complaints and grievances that have come out about how these designs were made, right? And it's from within the Navy, right? And some of them are higher up too. I have seen how the enlisted quarters looks compared to how the officers' quarters look, right? My thing has always been we should not be giving special treatment to officers just because they hold a higher rank, right? Obviously, as enlisted, look, they always teach us throughout BMT, throughout the entire Air Force, that we're all the same, but they don't act like that, right? A lot of them act high and mighty, especially when they have rank, and then they shit on you just because you're a lower rank than they are. Unfortunately, but that's how it is, right? And a lot of the times, you see that throughout various different situations, like the design of these aircraft carriers, these destroyers, right? Where a lot of the quarters are given a lot more room than the enlisted quarters, right? So how about we just redesign, right, and then constrain a little bit more, right, on areas that we could, such as the munitions and the aircrafts, right, and see if we can work with that, you know? So, but it's not just that too, right? They get into supplies and everything like that. So I'm not going to hold them up.
You have a report here that says the following. It says moldy showers, food shortages, sailors running out of toothpaste, deodorant, and soap. Families of the sailors and Marines aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln are sounding the alarm that their loved ones are so exhausted, they fear it could lead to deadly mistakes as the carrier enters its 9th month at sea and its 5th consecutive month of combat operations against Iran. The families told MS Now there's no indication of when their loved ones are going to return home, as their routine 7th-month deployment for the 5,000 plus crew members appears to have been extended for a second time. The crew in the Lincoln has had only 2 days off the aircraft carrier since it left its home port in San Diego in November. The ship had a short port call in Guam in December, and they did not have another stop until July 7th, when it briefly pulled into Oman after 208 continuous days at sea, a modern day record for a Navy aircraft carrier. Okay, so there's a lot to go through with that story. There's more to it we're going to get to in just a moment, but I don't know what I don't know. And I know that you are much closer to this stuff than I am. That doesn't sound good. Obviously, running out of toothpaste, moldy showers, that baseline sounds bad. But what's it mean that like the troops are experiencing those awful conditions, and I guess they're setting records being out at sea? What's that tell you?
Well, I mean, one, it's horrible, but it's also important to understand why this is happening. Okay. So you're talking about an aircraft carrier that typically, when it needs to resupply, is going to go to port, the port of Oman, Kuwait, UAE, Saudi Arabia, any of our allies, and I don't know, up through the Strait of Hormuz, where that's where we would normally port to resupply. And the problem now is obviously,
to which, if I remember correctly, some of those countries have just turned on us and have decided to ally with Iran. Could be wrong on that. I could be wrong on that. But as far as I remember, I'm pretty sure Nate was talking about that. I don't want to put any words in his mouth, but I'm pretty, if I remember correctly, there's like a whole Middle Eastern NATO thing going on where where Iran, Turkey, and some of the UAE, I think, have talked about allying with each other, and defending themselves against our greatest ally and the U.S.
Obviously, we're not a lot of people don't realize that we seem to think this naval blockade is like us just in the Strait of Hormuz. No, we're nowhere near this because of fear of Iran hitting our ships with ballistic missiles and drones. So they're way, 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 way off from any port to resupply. Okay. So now if you can't stop at port to resupply, well, you need to be able to aircraft resupply. Well, you can't fly a AC-130 onto an aircraft carrier. You can launch fighter jets off it, but you'd have to resupply through helicopter. Well, what's the problem there? Well, Iran destroyed all of our bases with all our Gulf allies in the Middle East. So now the helicopters can't fly that far without refueling. Okay, well, now you can't get resupply from helicopters either. So basically, these ships have no resupply, and now the troops have again having their deployments extended past. And for the biggest thing here is just morale.
To which the lives totaled, troops wise, are now closer to about 20. Last time I looked, the number was 16, 17, I think. So, oh boy, this will be probably one of the most embarrassing points in the Trump administration, which is quite a lot to say given the e-files, right? That still haven't come out, mind you. Right? So they're still trying to push for that, which really needs to come out, right? So I think there were like 3 million documents that still haven't been published. So where's that one island? Well, there's that one island over there. Blanking on the name of it. What island? I'm not sure. If you think of it, let me know.
For the troops, I can tell you, somebody that's deployed to war, low morale is absolutely brutal. And especially like when you're about ready to go home, to be told like, hey, sorry, another 6 months, especially if you're married, you have kids. All these things are brutal on the psyche of the troops. And then also just conditions are terrible. So now food, you're not eating good food at all. You're eating, whatever they have left in supply, MREs and different things like that. And we've seen, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of some of the food that's being served.
We have it actually. Let's pull it up. We have it.
Yeah. So, I mean,
what are we looking at here? That does not look appetizing.
So you obviously have some carrots. That's some type of ground.
Well, as someone who has ate at some pretty interesting defects, that just looks like, it just looks like a meal to me. But then again, you know, I'll pretty much eat anything. When I was in Korea and we were doing base wide exercises, quarterly exercises, mind you, these exercises would last sometimes in between 7 to 10 days consecutively. I mean, I would just chow down on MREs, right? Because that's all that we would really have to eat are MREs. So, you know, I mean, this as shit as it may be, right? I mean, I would see it as food. It is a little bit lacking on the quality for sure, as far as some of what I've seen from the military defects and chow halls or whatever. But you know, I would still eat that. What else are you gonna have to eat? MREs. This is better than MREs. So you know, Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Oh, okay. So wait. But you would have to get through the Strait of Hormuz for that, right? And I don't know I don't know if where okay, so let's see. Let's see if we can find out where the USS Abraham Lincoln is exactly located. So cool, we finished our coffee. All right. Let's get our keyboard back down here. All right, so let's see. Where is the USS Abraham Lincoln? Okay, let's see. Live military tracker. Okay, so days deployed 236. Wow. Current location, the Northern Arabian Sea. Okay, so the Northern Arabian Sea. And then let's find out where the Northern Arabian Sea is. Northern Arabian Sea. Okay, so they're not in the Persian Gulf. They're in the okay. All right. So let's see. Um, yeah. So that's Oman, UAE. So let's see. Do we happen to have any bases in Pakistan? I don't think we have any bases in Pakistan or India. Um, let's check real quick here. So it's just outside. Well, I mean, it could be anywhere from it could be anywhere right here to right over here. Though, if they get close to uh the strait here, they could be opened up to attack, which would be pretty bad because they and as much as they say that we have destroyed their military capabilities, we've only taken down what 15 to 30%, I think, of their capabilities. So um yeah, there's absolutely no way that we have done the damage that they say they did, that they say that we have done, right? I mean, obviously, since all of our bases are gone, right? So let's see. The US have bases in Pakistan or India. Let's see. Okay. So no, the U.S. does not have permanent or official military bases in either Pakistan or India. Okay. So I do know that we had bases in Oman and the UAE, and I believe also in Yemen. Let's see. Okay, no, maybe 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 I was wrong about Yemen. Maybe I was thinking about Saudi Arabia. Yeah. I think I was thinking about Saudi Arabia. Okay. All right. So yeah, so Oman, UAE, Saudi Arabia. But we can't really get to there, right? Um I mean, I guess we could probably go through this strait here, right? But I mean, there's no telling what would happen here. So, kind of in a tight spot, kind of in a really tight spot there. Oman would be the safest and closest place. Um, yes, but since they've destroyed all the bases in Oman, it would be pretty difficult, right? I mean, best thing that we could do is just pull out, right, and come back. But our greatest ally doesn't want that to happen, of course. They want to keep using this distraction to, I don't know, level Lebanon and Gaza and the West Bank, of course, right? So, all for greater, right? So, anyways, let's continue.
Beef hamburger and. As long as I spent in the military and as a Green Beret, I mean, I ate in very austere.
Hey, this looks like some of the medical chicks. So that looks appetizing, man.
Conditions, and I can't tell you what that is. Yeah, and then here you go. This is some shredded beef prison slop.
These photos came out actually in April of this year, and it was part of another story about the conditions the troops are going through. But I guess like, to me, we spend how much money on our military?
I was literally just 1.15 trillion. Okay. I was literally just going to say that to you, Keith, beforehand. It's like
here, listen to what he's about to say here, because this is absolutely crazy.
We spend 4 times what China does. Our military budget is 4 times the size of China, who has an insanely massive military and navy, and we can't afford decent food for the troops, which to me drives me crazy, because, man, when I was in Afghanistan, rural Afghanistan, middle of nowhere, I was eating pretty good. Like, we were always able to have pretty high morale, surf and turf on Tuesdays and things like that. And now for these guys, especially these young kids, first deployment, something like that, I can promise you all of these sailors, these young sailors, they're not re-enlisting. Not after this. They're going to be like, I'm out, dog. No, I'm not never doing that again.
No, dude. I was one of the vaccine refusals, right? So, and I even well before I refused the vaccination, I was done. I would say the final straw for me is the way that we pulled out of Afghanistan, right? I was still serving at that time. I wasn't in the Middle East, mind you, but I was still serving in North Dakota, and just watching how we pulled out was, I mean, it was atrocious, guys. Like, we left everything behind, and we straight up just left, right? And we handed over millions, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars of munitions, weapons, and equipment, right, to the Taliban. And I was disgusted. We even left American citizens behind. Glenn Beck had to raise funding, right? Well, I mean, not, but he had to spend some cash in order to hire teams to go in and rescue American citizens from the Taliban. So, counts fishing and cargo vessels as naval fleet. That's why they're. Oh, okay. Okay, do they? They do have a big fleet, but it's largely inflated due to the fish. Okay, gotcha. Their ships are crap to top it. Well, Yes. Yes, that is true. That is true. That is true. But I think even 4 times, like we're spending 4 times more, but our conditions aren't seemingly anywhere better than theirs. I mean, there's something to that, right?
So it's just par for the course coming from Trump's military. I mean, we like to pretend like there's all this respect for the troops or anything like that, but when you actually
Are they? Oh, what the fuck? Oh, dude, is that for real, dude? That's crazy, man. Oh man.
I talk to all my buddies. I only retired 2.5 years ago, guys, so I'm pretty fresh out. Wow. I served under both Trump, Biden, and Obama, so I know the differences of all those and what we're looking at now.
Well, I had served under both Trump and Biden. And what I will tell you is that or I would say at the beginning of Trump's first term, it was or at least it wasn't too bad, right? It wasn't too bad until it came time for Operation Warp Speed, which was under Trump's administration, mind you. And I like to remind conservatives, right, Republicans, that the whole COVID thing was during Trump's admin. Like I was on deployment when the COVID break, or when the COVID pandemic happened, right? And I remember Trump was also pushing for the vaccination, this experimental vaccination that has killed more people than the actual COVID virus itself, right? And then it wasn't until Biden got into office that they were forcing the troops to get the vaccination. At that point, I was kicked out for refusing the vaccination. So, well, we have a lot going on, not only in the naval units but aircraft development. Yeah, something that the House of Representatives just voted to willingly hand over to our greatest ally. So, ooh, there's that information, right? Great. Oh boy. So, I mean, it's not like they don't have that information anyways, but when you have all of that, right? When you have all of that, and this is, I mean, this is literally just the merging of everything, essentially, the government and the military with with us and our greatest ally, right? A fucking country the size of New Jersey in the Middle East, man. Um, I mean, they could just command our military to go over and do whatever the fuck they wanted to, you know, right? That's what's so dangerous about it. Dude, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I'm out, man.
And a lot of my buddies are now sergeant majors in Army Special Forces and active duty, and I can tell you, I don't know a single one of my buddies that's still.
You know what's insane, dude? You want to know what's insane? So I got out. What it was back in it was February 3rd, 2022. I got out, which is no way. No way. It's almost 4 years ago I was out. Oh my god, that's crazy. But yeah, almost 4 years ago. And some of the guys that I was in as an E3 are now E6s, technical sergeants, right? I mean, they're just one rank away from being in the top tier of enlisted. I was like, that's crazy, man. Nah, man, not me. I couldn't do it. uh, and our greatest ally will be sharing. Oh, they'll be outright selling everything, right? Because if you guys will remember, there is a specific quote from our president BB, and he has said that America is like a golden calf, right? And they're here to suck everything dry and then let it wither away, right? They said that America will be the biggest welfare state known to man. Yeah, they'll let it wither away because that's what they do to countries that they hate, right? That was said in a 1990 paper. Yeah, right? So, I mean, this is the mentality of the majority of that country. I want you guys to understand that. And a lot of them are here in the States here, right? And you could say that it really began with the Rothschilds, but we're not going to go there. So, I mean, just giving them literally the reins to everything is potentially, not even potentially, is more dangerous than handing it over to China or Russia or anyone else we deem to be a threat to us. I mean, matter of fact, the fact that the Pentagon had declared, right, the number one threat for them spying on us really says a lot, especially when we were constantly talking about China, Russia, Russia. You know, really says a lot. It really says a lot. Right? That's something that you should hear and you're like, oh, there's more to this than meets the eye, right? So
active that is happy about what they're seeing, and I don't know a single one of them that supports the war in Iran, which is pretty crazy because typically the war fighters, hate to say it, but like war. I mean, this is our job. This is what we spend all our time training to do. Not war itself, but the action of combat.
Do they say why? Like why this war? Is it just like what?
Well, here it's not that that war fighters enjoy war, right? No one, no. I mean, I say that like I like I fought in combat, right? But it's not war itself. It's the fact that you think you're going and you're doing something, you're making a difference, right? It's the fact that you're taking the mantle and protecting or what you believe to be protecting the nation, protecting your friends, protecting your family, and most importantly, protecting your guy that's got your six, right? That's what I think is something as to why he said what he said. Of course, no one really enjoys war. War is hell. War is hell, and I've seen a lot. Right, I've seen a lot of shit. And that's just something that none of us want. So just to kind of clarify what he said there.
I have some hypotheses, but
sure. So the biggest one is, I mean, most of us are also just, and I say us as veterans and those that fought the global war on terror, are also just burned out from 20 years of war and combat. But also, pretty much everybody realizes now that the 20-year wars that we fought were all a big lie and were for nothing, right? And there's a lot of complications in the psyche of veterans that deal with that, you know,
the reason I get into a lot of arguments with other veterans is because they do not want to believe this. They do not want to see reality for what it is. The fact that we were over there to fight pretty much our greatest allies' war, right, for the past 20, 30 years, was not for us, obviously. It wasn't for us. And it's really hard, especially myself as a veteran too, thinking that I was going and fighting the war on terror, right? When I was just the terror fighting the world, right? That's just the reality of it. That is the reality of it, right? And a lot of veterans, especially when they've lost friends, right? They don't want to admit that. It's hard. I get it. I absolutely get it. It's really hard. But you can't have your head in the clouds and deny reality, because this is reality.
Lost teammates and friends, myself, and then you realize it's for nothing. So everybody's very, very disillusioned at the top, the highest, not like the Pentagon level, but the, highest enlisted levels, very disillusioned. And then now all of a sudden we kick off a war that, again, nobody believes in, right? Everybody knows it's all BS. We know the reasons why it's what it's for. We were never even given any. It's like they didn't even try to lie. You know what I mean? At least George Bush. At least George Bush had the decency. Yeah, that's what I was
Why are we doing it? I don't
understand.
No one knows. It does. Like there's literally like, I guess it's, from what I understand, it's to stop their nuclear capabilities. But I thought we already did that last spring.
Nah, bro, it's about the real estate in Gaza. It's the real estate in Gaza. Trump wants to put a Trump hotel in Gaza Strip. That's what it is. It's for the banks. It's always been for the banks, man. World War One, World War Two. If you guys take a look into the history of World War One and World War Two, you will your eyes will open so much. Let me give you a couple of let me give you a couple of examples, right? All right, so in World War One, one of the reasons we got the reason that we got involved was because there was a cargo ship that was sunk by the Germans, to which there wasn't supposed to be any vessels in that area. The Germans warned that any ship that was in this area was going to get shot down, right? And yet there was a cargo ship that was sailing in that area that also had munitions in there. And so it was shot down, killing both, I believe, several Europeans and also American citizens, right? So that got us involved in the war. Why? And then you also have us rationing, right? And making and selling munitions, equipment in World War II, right? And then we were also building up a fleet for ourselves, which provoked Japan to preemptively strike, of course, right? Pearl Harbor was a terrible thing. I'm not excusing that at all. But at the same time, when we have something like this that happens, right? It brings into question, okay, so how are we necessarily the good guys when we were creating munitions, or excuse me, when we were developing munitions, armor, weapons, vehicles, whatever, selling it to the Europeans, right? And then also building up a fleet as if we were going to do something, right? Right. So nobody knows. They already said it's to yeah, exactly. They asked Marco Rubio why it is that we did that, and Marco Rubio said himself that if we didn't do it, that our greatest ally would do it. Right? He said it himself that we preemptively struck them. They said if we didn't preemptively strike, it would have been worse for us. Right? So by them admitting that it was a preemptive strike, because that's not how self-defense works. That's not how America works when it comes to war, right? We don't start wars, we end them. Okay? That's been America's motto for a long time. Right? But then again, America has a way of sticking its nose in the, and I would even go back. I would even go all the way back to the Mexican-American War, right? Where the American government decided to I don't know, send troops into the what was it called? The disputed zone, I believe. Yeah, provoking Mexico to attack. Right? So Japan was like, here comes. Well, no, we were like, here comes the sun to Japan. You know, we literally dropped the sun on them, right? Because you know, that's how you like America committed a massive. I do mean a massive war crime. I want you guys to understand. Okay, there were no innocents, and typically there are no innocents in war, right? That's just how war is. War's really fucked up. But guys, we dropped dozens of tons of munitions and explosives on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like we had designated strategic targets that we were supposed to hit, but instead we decided to drop them on heavily populated civilian, right, locations. Right? I mean, we killed hundreds of thousands, millions, I think. Just from those nuclear bombs, man. That's a massive war crime, right? How, I mean, but then again, you know, victors write history. So, you know, Japan wasn't right, we weren't right either.
But we also, you know, so like, you know, what's funny, Keith, is I covered the 12-day war, you could call it, extensively. And when we did the Fordo bombing, I've got entire videos where I called BS on us destroying anything. So I was a JTAC, which is the guys in layman's term that facilitate dropping bombs from the planes. So I'm very familiar. Wow. I actually talked about the type of munition they'd use to do it.
Did they? I thought they got rid of that after World War II, right? Because now their flag is just it's just the sun. I don't think it's the rising sun anymore. I thought they changed that
before they ever announced it. And I called BS. I'm like, there's 0% chance. 0% chance. You guys just went and dropped a bunch of bombs in the desert. And like Donald Trump, you know, we did it. We declared victory. We destroyed everything. It's like, yeah, okay. But then, you know, 9 months later, we've got to destroy their nuclear program again because we obviously never did. But also, they don't even have one. You know, Tulsi Gabbard, our own director of national intelligence, literally said 9 months ago, Iran is not trying to develop a nuclear weapon. Or the CIA said this. And then I don't remember if you know that famous clip of Donald Trump being asked about Tulsi Gabbard saying that Iran is not developing a nuke. And he goes, I don't care what she says. They're definitely doing it. And you're like, okay, man. So,
well, now they are. From what I understand, now they're,
of course they are.
Yes. So they have, I've made, I can't remember if I made a video and a live stream about this, but they did announce that they will be pursuing nuclear weapons. Not only that, but they just recently announced that they will no longer be looking for negotiations while the Trump administration is in power. Nice. Cool. So we have our greatest ally, who obviously doesn't want this war to end. They don't care how many American lives are lost in the process. Of course, they never really did. But then now we also have Iran that is completely, they're completely just nope when it comes to negotiations to ending this war, right? And this war was supposedly ended like hundreds of times already, or at least dozens of times. I do know that last time I checked, Trump has said that the U.S.-Iran war has ended 50 different times. So, you know, but he's also admitted to manipulating the market each and every single time. He said that the war's back on, that the war has ended. So, you know, support him at your own risk.
The new guy who's actually more extreme than the last guy is wanting to move forward with that in a way that the previous ones were not. So,
and would you not be more extreme if somebody bombed your country and killed your dad and maimed one of your daughters? Like, you don't think that guy's, you think that guy's going to be like, oh, good to go. Let's get some peace. I'm like,
this is what I don't understand about war. Cause it's like, I just don't understand. Like, I don't think it ever, I think if I bitch slap you, you're more likely to bitch slap me, right?
Oh, Nihon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got you. Okay. I was just under the assumption that it changed because they don't have the rays around the sun anymore. It's just the sun itself.
Like maybe you talk it out. No bitch slapping. To put it simply. So
well, then how about we stop? How about our greatest ally? I don't know. Stop bombing Lebanon, right? As Iran has requested them to do, right? How about that? How about that? And how about they stop trying to kill the negotiators, okay, on the Iranian side as well?
Well, I don't understand. I just don't understand the point of war. Usually, I know that sometimes you have to defend yourself, but it seems more often than not.
Doesn't look like we're doing that. You know?
No. That's not what's happening here. I'm just saying, generally speaking, sometimes.
Right. I know I'm pausing this a lot, but there's a lot to say. We're definitely not defending ourselves, guys. In the first day, the first 24 hours that we started this war, we bombed a children girls school, right? We bombed a girls school 3 times. 3. And I've had people tell me, "Oh, that was an accident." You were an accident. Not that. You were an accident. No. I can understand once, but twice or 3 times, especially 3 times, that's not an accident, bro. That's not an accident. Let's not even talk about the Ukraine, Russia. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the Biden's involvement with that. Ooh. And how Ukraine is also connected to our greatest ally. So,
sometimes
no, I agree.
But this seemed pointless and just made us less safe.
But also, Keith, and I try to explain to people, I'm like, what's our track record on regime change? We can go.
Okay, hang on, guys. I'm going to use the restroom real quick. Been holding it for a couple of minutes, so. All right, I'm back.
Go back to the Korean War, right? We go back to the Korean War. Did we overthrow the communists? Nope. We gave up and left. Vietnam. My dad was a Green Beret in Vietnam. 19 years.
We gave up and left.
Did we regime change Ho Chi Minh? No, we left, you know.
We even, guys, we even violated international law. Thanks, bro. We even violated international law by sending Green Berets into the no-go zone, right? Which was I always forget the name of this country, bro. But it's right next to Vietnam. It starts with a B, I think. But we sent troops into that area, and that was a big no-no, right? And we gave up and we left, accomplishing nothing.
Iraq, Afghanistan, right? In Afghanistan, I'd said, you know, I was part of that. 20 years fighting the Taliban to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. Iraq, we're still there. And now there's like war kicking back up there. Syria, we replaced Assad with the former leader of Al-Qaeda. It's like, this is our success rate as America.
Not only that, but Trump invited the leader or one of the leaders of Al-Qaeda to the White House, gave him a present, a gift, and they played basketball with our military leaders. I made a video, live streams about it. You guys can go take a look. So if these guys are as much of a threat as they say they are, why are they then inviting one of the leaders who's now the president of Syria? Why did they allow for that person to come to the White House?
America in these regime change wars, it's 0%. 0%. So I don't know. I think like all of us,
it makes me feel like, what are we like? What we spent so much money, we spend more than anyone else. We get it seems like we get fewer successes, and it seems like we're just not as safe as we used to be. So it just
nowhere near it.
I don't know how I just feel like we gotta stop spending as much on the military writ large and like start investing in, I don't know, children.
anything else other than bombing brown people, maybe? Like literally anything else? Yeah. So I mean,
not necessarily just investing in it, but investing into things that's going to benefit our children. Definitely not investing into I don't know, AI and certain other software that's going to record their voices or record what they talk about through their emails with the AI, right? And create a portfolio of problem children, right? So, yeah, how about we actually start, I don't know, putting funding towards things that's actually going to help America. But, you know, our government is run by traders and PDFs who have sold out. And here we are. Let's see. Well, I'm on the fence with AI develop. AI can have it. See, this is the thing, right? Either people are for AI or they're against AI, right? Both being zealous about it, right? Their viewpoints. Here's the thing. AI is not the issue, right? I don't believe AI is the issue. It's a tool, just like anything else, right? Let's just say firearms. Firearms are a tool. And you have law-abiding gun owners, and you have criminals who rob grocery stores or gas stations, right? There you go, right? It's how it's used, right? It's how it's used. So I myself, I'm more neutral about AI, okay? I've done a number of things about AI. Where I'm against AI is when AI is used as a weapon. Where I'm for AI is when AI is used to benefit, right, and progress everyone as a whole, not just the elitists who are trying to cut labor costs for profit.
For me, politically, it's funny because
that leads to the average American being homeless.
Grew up in a very far right Republican household. And then I kind of just shifted. But it was really me actually going and serving in Afghanistan that sort of opened my eyes, you know, because as Green Berets, we work a little bit different than the rest of the military. We don't, you know, it's not like 100 of us that go out and fight like Rangers or Navy SEALs or the infantry. There's only 12 of us, and we actually work by, with, and through the local.
Oh, I was about to say about 15 or 20.
Local army. So for us, it's 12 of us that actually take 50, 60, 70 Afghans out to go fight the Taliban, for example. So we live with the people that we serve with. And for me, it was living with, you know, Muslims in an Islamic country that night after night, every operation we went out, were risking their lives to protect me and my teammates. And I started being like, oh, whoa, maybe this post 9/11 Islamophobia lie I've been sold isn't what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you look into Building 7 and how Building 7 came down at the same time that the towers were coming down, and how I don't know, a certain person who uh just so happened to out of nowhere took their kid to school that morning, and didn't show up at the World Trade Center that fateful day. You look at that kind of stuff, and then you also look into the firefighter who was blowing the whistle on a lot of different things and how he was threatened with a bunch of things, and you begin to question, and then you also learn about the dancing Israelis, right? And you're like, well, uh, must have been some crazy shenanigans happening over there. So interesting. Well, I'm neutral like you, but this is also, well, yes, yeah, it is, but that's typically that's typically how my streams go, anyways. How many times do we go off subject on a lot of different stuff, right?
So I begin to shift more and more and more. I left the Republican Party about 4 years ago now. Now I'm just an independent. I call myself an independent, and I'm getting to my point here. I call myself an independent conservative, but I think I'm going to drop that because conservatism believes in exactly what you just said, Keith, which is like, let's not spend $10 million on bombing brown people and, another $100 billion on, a domestic police force like ICE that we don't need and all these different things. So I'm not sure what that word means anymore. So now I just consider myself an American populist, I guess, because
I'm out.
I don't know what I don't know what I don't know.
I really don't like the labels that people use, right? Look, it's either you're for America and America only, or you're not, right? I mean, what does it mean today to call yourself a Republican or a Democrat or independent or centralist or whatever, right? I mean, I a while ago I would have considered myself more of a Republican, but um, now as I've been thinking about this, especially over what the year and a half, a little over a year and a half that I've started YouTube and my other socials, of course, um, I've been thinking about this, and um, what I've come to find out is these people who who label themselves as a certain political party are, and this is probably going to be a hot take, but they're essentially cultists, right? We know how how these leftist wokies behave, but at the same time we know how MAGA also behaves, right? And they behave in the same way. They absolutely behave in the same way. They completely refuse to hear any logic at all, right? And they worship the party that they subscribe themselves to be a part of, right? And with zealousness too, right? So I'm for the U.S. taxpayers. Exact. Well, okay. U.S. taxpayers party. Interesting. If I was to pick a party to align myself to, okay, gotcha. Originally called Constitution Party. Got it. Okay, I gotcha. Unfortunately, when it comes to politics, I guess whenever you're a politician, I mean, obviously, if you're a politician, you have to be a part of a party, right? But here today, there's only two parties, which I absolutely fucking hate, right? And our founding fathers had warned us about a multi-party system, to which I don't really think that you could really get away from a multi-party system, right? Because we're a free country, right? We have to be. I mean, it's in it's in the Declaration of Independence, right? Um, the right to pursue life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right? So it um I think it's inevitable, right, for multiple parties to exist. However, when when these parties are corrupted, right, obviously that's when problems arise, and that's exactly what we're seeing. The thing is, how do we stop a party from being corrupted, right? I mean, but then again, there are some answers to that, right? And those answers are not so good answers. So, and those answers we don't really want to talk about, right? Because then that would really just plunge the entire country into chaos. And but I think eventually this is going to happen anyways. And I've been called, I was literally called a doomer today for talking about the collapse of the country literally within 4 to 5 years, right? And this isn't for me to scare you guys or scare myself or anything like that. I'm not here to be an alarmist, but what I do see, it should be concerning to all of us, right? When our House of Representatives, our own government, is voting to sell everything that is America to a foreign country, right? Sell out, right? Um, it's only a matter of time before things happen, right? Three parties: Republican, Democrat, Independent. Well, yes, yes. Well, the whole reason that the Republican Party was created, right, was to combat the Democratic Party, right? In order to end the war, right, in the Civil War. Well, actually, no, my bad, my bad. The Republican Party was created before. No, no. It was around the same time. It was around the same time. Anyways, um, it was created to end the war, and most of the representatives that was in the Republican Party were black. Did you guys know that? That's true. That's true. So, anyways, the problem where a lot of parties get get in a lot of trouble is that they take special interest and foreign interests over American interests, right? So, I thought the Republican Party was made by Lincoln to combat. Um, it it I think I might be a little bit confused on the history of the Republican Party, because if I want to say I've read information about the Republican Party being started a little bit before Lincoln. Um, but I'm gonna have to double check that. I do want to say that is correct. That Lincoln did start essentially the Republican Party, and that was to Now I do know that that party was to combat um was combat slavery and end the Civil War. But I'll definitely have to check back on that. Because there was a big fight well before the Civil War began over slavery versus free states, right? Um, so and yeah, there were a lot of conflicts. A lot of politicians were beating each other up over it. A lot of citizens were beating each other up over it. There was an entire race to gain more and more slave or free states, right? So, which ultimately led up to the war, and this was anywhere from 5 to 10 years before the war began. So, y'all need to look back into it as well. I will have to do the same, yeah. But I can't remember. There was like an entire act that was in the 1850s, I think, that declared that there should be the equal amount of slave and free states. And I can't remember. I can't remember what act that was, but yeah. There. Anyways, the main thing is that there was a big thing about slavery before the war even began, right? So naturally, there was a coalition during the war to, right, gain more support, right? And that's also where um, the dollar came from as well. That was known as the note at the time. But anyways, getting too far off topic.
Conservatism even is in America anymore?
Listen, I think something that's like underreported right now, and something that really hasn't been fully looked into, is that there is a realignment happening in this country.
Big time.
There's a realignment happening because I truly don't know. I don't know where on the spectrum. I know I'm not.
Maybe it might be because of me being a small channel, but I don't think I'm necessarily seeing that. Right? I don't think I'm necessarily seeing that. I'm seeing a bunch of people who are still at each other's throats over the artificial um artificial party line politics, right? Or artificial war uh on the over the party line politics. That's what I'm still seeing, right? Could be that perhaps we are shifting, right? I do know that the majority of Americans do not like our greatest ally, right? And that's continuously growing. And more people are shifting away, I do think, from the parties that have sold out. But to say that that's really making a movement, I'm not exactly too sure about that. I guess we'll have to see what happens in the next coming 6 months, maybe next year or so. So, I mean, what are you guys seeing? Are you guys seeing like a pretty big shift when it comes to people and their politics and their political affiliations?
On the right, but I feel like in many ways I'm very progressive, but I feel like the progressiveness is just a matter of fact, looking at what's happening in this country and wanting things to be different. And I do think that there are folks like you who are traditionally more conservative, who are just seeing things too and saying, hey, we've been sold some things that aren't necessarily true, and we have to do something differently. So I do think there's like a huge realignment. I mean, I think about Zoran Mamdani and Trump hanging out in the Oval Office and being buddy. But I think that means something more than just like a press opportunity, because I think there are some things that are both populist, they both agree on. Now, of course, there's much they don't agree on, but I do think that we're seeing these fights on the left between like moderates and progressives. And my hope is with the progressives who are winning in swing states, we're going to see that actually progressive ideas, which really are just about like Medicare for all, not bombing overseas, it's like, I feel like those are things that conservatives and moderates agree with.
I do.
Yeah. So
I personally, and a lot of people, I get called a socialist. It's crazy. I'll get called a socialist or a con.
Yeah. Pretty. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Okay. Take care of the health of America. Take care of the wealth of America, right? And accountability for the government, right? And let's get back to neutrality when it comes to the Middle East. Let's get the fuck out of the Middle East. Let's worry about our own country, right? Because we're not doing well. We're not doing well at all, right? So, and let's get our borders closed. Simple as that, right? Yep, seen a decent amount of people questioning what party they are part of. I have seen that. Yeah, I have seen that. While there are a few that say they decide based on what the individual wants to fix, change, but still a lot are far right or far. Yes, that's also what I see too. That's why I say I'm kind of not exactly too sure about that. But that's also because I'm a smaller channel. I don't have the reach these guys do. So I'm not seeing a collective of thousands and thousands of people who are saying, "Hey, look, perhaps I've changed and I'm changing now," and this, so on and so forth. So maybe that has changed more than what I thought it has.
Communist immediately from MAGA. I'm not MAGA's biggest fan, if you follow my content, obviously.
Neither am I.
But yeah, I mean,
I'm not a fan of the left, and I'm not a fan of the right. Okay, I'm not a fan of either. And I hate when people tell me to pick a side. Do you guys have that problem? Right? I Dude, I run into people like this all the time. Well, you got to pick a side. You got to pick a side. No, I'll pick the side of the truth. How about that? How about that? Because the side of the truth isn't on either of your side. So, no, absolutely not. No, that's a cultist mentality. Just pick a side. Just pick a side blindly. No.
The way I look at it, I'm like, we spent $10 trillion on the global war on terror. We got nothing out of it. What could that $10 trillion?
Well, we got a lot of Americans who died. Right. We got a lot of dead Americans. That's what we got. Other than that, nothing. Nothing. Right. Trust me, I served during the war on terror. I know. We got jack shit. But if you ask our greatest ally, then they have gotten a lot since we send them $3.8 billion a year, right? On top of $500 million for their military budget. So, and any other packages we decide to send them as well. So, nope, I say what party I'm on, and almost all don't even know about it. Oh, yeah. To be honest, I didn't even know about the. No, actually, no. I've heard about the Constitution Party, but the other party that you talked about, I'm not exactly too familiar with. But that's interesting. I don't like to associate myself with any party, because I think that's kind of a dangerous territory, because when you start to say and label yourself and this is what I was talking about earlier, if you start to say and label yourself a part of a political party, then I think you get too far away from the Constitution, right? And you become more loyal to a party instead of what our founding fathers had, or excuse me, what our principles that our founding fathers had wrote for us, right? So maybe maybe a little bit of a hot take there, but you know, all I usually get is, oh, that's interesting. Okay. Constitution Party renamed. Oh, U.S. Taxpayers Party. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting how we are paying significantly higher taxes than what we were before the Revolutionary War? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting?
Dollars have done in the United States. So where I'm at this point is, and a lot of people, a lot of veterans and even conservative veterans kind of agree with this, is not like a full isolation.
I'm okay. So I'll add this here, right? The what I would be concerned about with the U.S. Taxpayers Party is having it end up exactly like the Union, right? Where it was for the small guy, the little guy, right? And it was to protect workers' rights and everything like that. But then at a certain point, it became corrupted, right? So I would be concerned about that, right? But then again, it goes back to my earlier question: how do you stop a political party, from being corrupted? I mean, it's everywhere today. It's everywhere.
Approach, but I would prefer we yanked every military base for the most part, outside of, out of Europe, out of Africa, out of the Middle East, out of Asia, and we brought all the troops home and we defend the homeland. Okay, if we need to defend the homeland, we defend the homeland, and we take those trillions and trillions of dollars and we start to invest them in whatever. And I really say America first, on my channel, not as a Nick Fuentes America first. I want to get a big distinction there, but I only support policies and politicians that want to directly, positively impact the working class American. And so what I'd like to see is, instead of spending all these trillions of dollars on, again, bombing brown people in Latin America and the Middle East and Africa, and yeah, let's do universal health care. Let's do free education. Like, let's do, I just saw a Republican governor candidate talking about how he's against, maternal leave for mothers. After, like, we can't support our wives and our moms and our sisters and our daughters with a little bit of help. We're the richest country in the world. And so if that makes me, this is
well, technically we're not, because, well, I guess you could probably say that we are, because we fund our greatest ally, right? And if they can have free education, free healthcare, then we should be able to do that too. But that doesn't really rake in the cash, right? It's nothing like a pandemic that really profits really makes a profit. You know, how much how much did Pfizer and Moderna, how much money did they rake in? What, like $90 million or something like that? Some crazy number, right? So, yeah.
I'm probably like you as a populist, maybe all over the place politically, but like, what are we doing here at this point, right? And that's really what made me fully leave the Republican Party, was just watching. One, they're not conservative because the spending, Keith, is not going down, right? Like the budget or the the debt is skyrocketing under conservatives, and we have nothing
worse
for
and
it.
worse.
Do you look around and see your roads being repaved? Do you have, do we have universal health care, free education? Do we have any of these systems in place as the richest country in the world? No. So,
oh, my bad, guys. My bad. I had that number completely wrong. It wasn't 90 million. Just Pfizer alone was actually $35 billion. Damn. Wow, and that's just 21 and 2021 and 2022. Damn. Wow. Yeah, tens of billions of dollars. Great. That's awesome. That's awesome. But American citizens can't get any kind of help when it comes to daycare. Did you guys see that clip where Trump was speaking and he was literally saying how we're fighting wars and we're doing this, that, and the third, and so we can't fund daycare. It's the states that's going to have to fund daycare, and so they're going to have to raise their taxes. So guess what? If you want daycare, you're going to have to pay extra. How does that make any sense, right? I mean, just to go to show you that it's both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party that has failed us and continuously fails us. So, we need some actual politicians that are going to go in there and do the right thing. But then again, the last good representative I think we actually really had, well, maybe not the last one, but one of the last ones. I mean, I guess you could argue that Thomas Massey and all those guys were a little bit more true, but definitely the last really good one that we had was JFK and his brother, and then they were assassinated. So there's a really big problem when it comes to politicians who actually want to go in and make a difference, which kind of makes me concerned for Brandon Herrera. Because I was really supportive of Brandon Herrera getting his seat in Texas, which he did, right? But when you are a cog in the machine, right, it's either you get pushed out, right, and such as Thomas Massey just did. He got primaried for over a guy that no one knew of, Ed Galrine, which also committed stolen valor, mind you, saying that he was in service a lot longer than what he actually was. Candace has got the receipts on that. But anyways, or they just outright murk you, right? If they can't bribe you, they'll take you out another way, right? And this was something that Cenk, what is his name? Cenk something. He's on the Young Turks, and there was an interview with an Israeli official or something like that, and he said they have the right to bring up politicians and take them down, right? Interesting.
I was talking about this on my show the other day. What are we spending the money on? Does anybody know where these trillions of dollars are going? Because I don't see any positive output from it.
I mean, the thing I think about a lot, actually, or like my biggest example of how even centrist Democrats aren't really interested in helping Americans was when we had the child tax credit, which was the greatest policy to pull most Americans out of poverty. And what that policy did was it allowed people to claim the deduction for their children ahead of time, so they'd get it back as a rebate every month as a check. And it actually did the job of helping lift Americans out of poverty. And what happened to that? Well,
they got rid of it.
They got rid of it. They let it lapse. And you know who helped? Centrist Democrats. They voted to let it lapse. So that's the thing, is like, I just am interested
Great job, Democrats.
Policies and politicians who are against corporations who want money out of politics and want to invest in us. Simple as that.
Let me pitch an idea to you here, Keith, because a lot of people, I don't think, add all these things up. If you didn't see, the military is at record recruitment levels right now. Record. Do you think Gen Z, who I can tell you does not support the war in Iran or a certain country for the most part, that's pretty much where they were fighting it for, do you think, record numbers of Gen Z are wanting to join the military? No, it's usually a last chance effort for a lot of young, poor Americans that have no other option. Like, I joined the military because I didn't have any other options left. Like, I was that or prison, right? So what I'm going to pitch to you is that the Trump administration wants a bad economy. See, a war administration wants a terrible economy because it jacks up recruitment numbers through the roof. And if you're I'm still a big proponent. I think we're going to do a full-scale grand invasion into Iran. I think that's coming. And we got to remember, in the global war on terror, 2001 is when we initially went into Afghanistan. They couldn't get across the goal line to invade Iraq until 2003. It's 2 years of war before the neocons finally got that across the table. We're only 5 months into this. And if you're looking at this is also expanding, right? Saudi Arabia is now entering the war against Iran. Ukraine has been bombing Iran, right? Russia, everything is sort of being intermingled and intertwined and getting more complicated to undo. That's the only way forward. You can't pull out, you got to push through. And so I think that's coming. And if that's coming, and a full-scale ground invasion in Iran will be far more death toll than even Vietnam, well, you're going to need a lot of bodies in the military. Yeah.
So I wanted to add more to that, right? Because he hit on something that I've been talking about for a little bit now. And he said a war machine craves a bad economy. Have you guys ever wondered why things are becoming more expensive? Why it only seems to be getting worse and worse and worse, right? I made a short about how the price of rent drastically shot up versus the wages for average Americans. Let me tell you something, or let me share something with you guys. Okay, so in 2001, 2001, the the federal minimum wage was it was around $7. Like, or no, I think it was like $6.25 or something like that. If I remember correctly, here, hang on. I do want to say it was around $7. Let's see. Minimum wage for 2001. Oh, my bad. $5.15. That was the minimum wage in 2001, right? And it wasn't until well, actually, here, the minimum wage today. Oh, here, hang on. Is wow, okay, so it's still $7.25. Okay, so the minimum wage is still the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 today. Which in some states, like here in Virginia, because I was actually I live in Virginia, and I do know that there was talk about raising a minimum wage to $12. Some were saying $15, stuff like that, right? I remember when that was making waves. But yeah, so 2009 it raised from $5.15 to $7.25 and stayed that way through the pandemic, through everything, especially today, stayed that way, right? However, you look at some of these billionaires, right? Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they have um they have gained the amount of wealth of some countries. Okay? So let's see. Let's see. Net worth of Elon Musk in 2009. Let's see. Let's see. In 2009, Elon Musk's estimated net worth was roughly 200 million. So let's find out what that is today. Doing this live here. $823 billion. Okay. Now, let's take a look at Lowe's CEO wages versus average employee. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. Right there. Right there. And then you couple that with market manipulation from the government, regardless of president, regardless of administration, regardless of politician, right? And this is this has been a thing for decades. It's been a thing for decades, right? Unfortunately, now it's just taken this long to finally see what's the repercussions of this, right? Is oh yeah, it's absolutely way too low. It's absolutely way too low, right? When people say, "Hey, look, I can't survive like this," they're not lying to you. They're not crying about anything. It's not a woe is me kind of situation. It's the truth. It's the reality, right? A lot of people, and I've covered this, a lot of people are going homeless, right? And they're criminalized for being homeless, mind you, as well. And then they're also deciding on, or they're having to choose in between paying their health insurance, to which if they don't, in certain states, they can be fined for not paying their health insurance, and even facing prison or jail time. Thanks, or actually, no, I'm paying a fine. Excuse me. So thanks, Obama administration, for that. Or their rent, right? So they're facing, okay, do I pay a scammy insurance company that's not going to do jack shit for me, right? Or do I pay a fine, right? One or the other, right? And unfortunately, some people are deciding to try and do both, and they're starving. Either that or their children are starving, right? When you have the masses who are in a situation like that, and mind you, we are in a much worse situation than our great grandparents in the early 1900s. Okay. More young Americans are staying home, are not pursuing homes for themselves than in the early 1900s. I made a video about this almost a year ago. I made a video about this. It's called Our Lives Suck, right? And I talk about the Federal Reserve. I talk about the fact that, you know, our wages are not keeping up with inflation. But that's by design. That is by design, because if you have people desperate enough to get out of a serious situation where they cannot properly provide for themselves or their families, they're going to conscript, right? They're going to volunteer for the military, and that's how they get you, right? Not only that, but if they don't have enough people, they're going to register the draft. So guess when that happened? 1917. Yep, 1917. right as the First World War ended. Let me tell you something. The Federal Reserve Act was signed by Congress in 1913, and the war in Europe started in 1914. Uh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Despite well, actually no, I'm talking about the 16th Amendment. Sorry, guys. Where I was going with that was gonna say, despite the 1980 or the 1894 ruling of Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust Company declaring federal income tax unconstitutional, and then the same where I was going with this is the same year, the same year that the Federal Reserve Act was passed. So did the government supersede the Supreme Court wrote in the 16th Amendment, which I'm surprised that a lot of people don't know what the 16th Amendment is, because the 16th Amendment is where the government gave itself the right to levy a tax unapportioned of the states. So they can issue a blanket tax regardless of where you live, and you got to pay that, or guess what? You go to prison. That seems like robbery. Well, because it is. So to a degree, I've made it with minimum wage, off a single job, budgeting skills, artifact. That also depends on where you live. That depends on where you live, right? So, I mean, I'm making it, right? I mean, just I run out of money at mid month, you know. And of course, me being as disabled as I am, right? You know, I can't really work, so this is why I do this. But and I make what, 4,000 a month, so you know it's decent enough to get me through the month, right? Or at least halfway through the month, you know, because I am a homeowner, right? And it's just me that pays the bills, and that's rough. That's rough, you know. So, but you know, 4,000 a month, you know, that's that's still kind of rough too, you know. So, I think to lead a decent life, especially with a family, you know, you would have to make anywhere from $7,000 to $8,000 a month, right? And where are you going to find a job like that? You know, a job that, you know, requires you to have entry level experience, or have um, more of entry level experience for an entry level job, right? So, you know, in most entry level jobs, you know, don't really pay anywhere close to that. So budgeting is like cooking. Some can and some can't. That's true. That's true, especially depending on where you live. Look, I was looking at some of the apartments live with some of you guys, right? And where I was looking at, like, some places were costing $2,500 a month, right? For studio apartments. That was like a broom closet, the size of a broom closet, right? So when you have a good portion of people, right, that cannot provide for themselves, or having incredible difficulty providing for themselves, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer they're going to join, because they know they're going to be fine, or at least a little bit or a lot closer to fine than what they were before they enlisted, right? So that's coming. I've said for a while now that they flirted with the idea months ago about reinstituting the draft, and they're talking about it. They're talking about it, right? So, you know, when you see them talking about it, it's not going to be too much longer after they do that they not only institute or bring back the draft, but they also get us involved in another world war or another major conflict, right? So I just make a business, not going for entry level hell. Yeah, yeah. I saw the writing on the wall when I was in college. It was a year and a half ago that I went to college, and I was starting to see things as I was going into the career field that I was, right. I was starting to become a an engineer, right, or I was going for an engineering degree, and I was seeing how AI was taking over the engineering side, right. I want to say I did I wrote a paper how or excuse me, I collabed with some other students on a paper, and I talk about how AI is to be taking over a good portion of engineering jobs, right? I believe in a specific field. They were going. It was studied that AI would take anywhere from 30 to 40% of engineering or engineers' jobs in 2030, right? And then I saw that same year that Amazon had replaced, or excuse me, had opened up 30,000 new jobs, but if I remember correctly, 10,000 of those jobs went to AI, and then 20,000 of those jobs went to H-1B visas, right? So obviously, Americans are not considered in mind because Americans are going to demand higher wages versus H-1B visas are going to accept lower wages to be here, right? And they'll accept lower conditions, lower wages than what we will, like I just said. So, you know, it just gives bigger companies more of an incentive to continuously help the government to shitify the economy, such as where we are heading very, very fast, right? I'm seeing things accelerate, right? I'm coming across information that a lot of people don't know about, right? I've had someone on the channel quite a while ago, and he hasn't popped in for a little bit. But he was someone who was involved in the farming industry, and so I interviewed him, and as we were talking, he was telling me of the monopolization with Bayers and a couple of other companies, seed companies, and how the tariffs were actually affecting farmers and how farmers were having increased difficulty, right, for their businesses, right? The economy is squeezing farmers out of their businesses. They're shutting down, which means less food, right? Um, I want to say Bill Gates is one of the people who have a massive monopoly on farms because I think he has the largest um acreage as far as farms go, right? He has the majority of the land there, and what he's pushing is a bunch of absolute slop, right? When it comes to meat being made in a fucking factory in a lab, right? 3D printed meat. So you have monopolization, you have the economy being the way that it is, and you have we're going to have a massive food shortage here in the next year, right? Um, that's going to make things so much worse. So when the economy gets so bad to the point to where people are literally having to either fight each other for food, right, or whatever, it's going to bring everything into chaos, right? We haven't seen this yet, but we're starting to see signs of it now, right? So, aka, that's why a lot of these um parasites are being found, right? They're literally just shipping uh uh goods in, right? And they're not inspecting them clearly because they're trying to rush to get more product there, so that people don't panic, right? That's why people were having all these parasites. Why the whole, um, people having parasites in their guts, having the shits and everything is such a big deal. I would guarantee you that's exactly why that's happening, because there's a massive shortage of food, right? And not only are they pushing their slop with their disgusting food that's filled with a bunch of chemicals and this, that, the third, but there's also a void that they're trying to hurry up and fill to kind of make up for a massive shortage. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
And
but how are we?
Yeah, luckily I know how to, unfortunately, I don't. So there was something that I was studying a while ago. I've been learning a little bit about farming, but I really need to pick that shit back up.
How are we going to be able to fight a ground invasion in Iran? If we were talking before we started recording, and you were saying that there's actually we're low on munitions,
right?
And we're not going to be able to get them back until 2032. Yeah. So how do you square that circle?
Oh yeah,
it feels like we're
yeah. So we've used up most, if not all, of our munitions. Yeah, that's a bad situation to be in.
We don't have the capability.
So
am I wrong?
No, they're definitely very, and we'll talk about it here in a second, very specific types of munitions that are actually incredibly important, specifically if you were going to want to launch a ground invasion. But yeah, well, we could do it. Now, we have plenty of air-to-ground munitions. Now, as I talk about in my channel all the time, an air campaign doesn't win a war. An air campaign has never changed a regime. It actually increases the resolve. Excuse me. We got super bad forest fires here in Oregon right now, so I'm getting beat up from that. No, it's good. But what we'll do, right, is, and this is most likely what will happen, is we'll go retake Afghanistan. So what we'll do is we'll go back, we'll take Bagram Air Base, we'll take Kandahar Air Base, and that will allow us to facilitate. Now, in southern Afghanistan, there's what's called the Heroin Silk Road that runs from Pakistan up through Kandahar, Helmand, Farah, out through Herat, which takes you into the area you can actually drive into Iran with tanks and troops like that. It's a nasty valley that, if we did that, hundreds of thousands of troops will die. But to actually
well, yeah, I mean, anything that would be, I mean, strategically, right, you want to have the high ground, and if you have high grounds, or if you have a high ground on either side of one narrow passageway, that's going to be really, 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 really bad, right? We learn about this in the what is it, the Persian Wars, right, with the battle of Thermopylae, right, where Sparta had control of one narrow passageway, and they were doing a phenomenal job at that, but when they got surrounded, because there was another passageway around, right, that blockade essentially, right, they were overwhelmed. So it's all about the high ground, unfortunately, Anakin, we wouldn't have the high ground.
Facilitate excuse me, a ground invasion into Iran, you have to take Afghanistan back first. So, and there's rumors of that going on. One of my former commanders that is still in was saying the other day, he told me in 2023, right before I retired, that we would be back in Afghanistan within 5 years to take that back to probably facilitate a war against Iran. He was talking about that in 2023. So,
bam.
And what that allows us to do is now we have Bagram Air Base, which is right next to Iran, and now you can facilitate air campaigns much easier. You don't need to use the aircraft carriers and things like that. And then you can push through with conventional ground military troops like we did in Iraq. But again, it's going to be bloody. It's going to be messy. But don't be shocked if you see that happen before the end of Trump's term, because I think they're trying to get a lot of this across the goal line while they still have the support to do it. So it's terrifying, but yeah, for the missile systems, if we want to talk about that next, the shortage of missile systems. Yeah. So what we have, let's see, I think I had,
And don't count on them impeaching Trump and the Trump administration. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If anything, they'll probably have him step down due to health concerns. There's already signs of that right now. I mean, with him shitting himself literally, and falling asleep in the middle of the day, right? You know, we laughed at Biden for being lost at the UN, and we also laughed at Biden for falling asleep in the middle of really important events. But Trump is doing the same thing, and according to Nate, according to Nate, who has quite a bit of experience when it comes to dementia, Trump is showing some pretty massive signs of dementia. So his health is failing, and we're gonna see how that happens. Let's see. Horticulture. I don't know what that is. Metallurgy, hunting, dressing, chemistry, shelter building, and a bit of bushcraft, and you'll be good no matter what. Bushcraft is something I can do. Shelter building is something that I can do. I mean, it might take me a while because of how my conditions are with my back. Well, I mean, my entire body essentially. But chemistry, I would have to know. Hunting and dressing, I would be good with. I've hunted for most of my life, and I would probably have to brush up on dressing, but hunting I can do. Metallurgy, are you talking about like working with metal, right? Crafting, like flint knapping, um, smelting metal, shaping it, sharpening and everything like that. Getting some electrical literacy would also be useful. That's something that I'm going to be getting into, because I would like to um learn how to use a solder, because I will be doing some diorama pieces where I would like for some lights to appear. I think that would be really, really cool. I would like to do at least one kind of diorama like that. That would be really sick. But we'll have to see how that plays out. But I am looking into getting into at least a little bit of electrical stuff.
I don't know where it is. Anyway, I'll just explain it. Oh, so yeah. So the story as it goes here, and we've covered, yeah. So we are, as far as we're being told, whistleblowers and even the Pentagon acknowledged this about a month ago, is a couple different types of missile systems. We have what's called ATACMS, and these are our surface to surface missile systems. And why these are really important is because they're mobile. You put them on what's called a HIMARS system. I don't know if you've heard that term before.
Listen, pretend like I don't know anything, because this is all new to me. So, okay, I just know domestic stuff. I know who's going to win in Michigan.
Yeah. So I'll explain it. So the HIMARS system is the launcher, the mobile launcher, right? It's a vehicle that has the launcher system on it. You'll see that, right? The ATACMS are the missile themselves that launch, and the HIMARS are super, super important because they're mobile. So you can put them on a AC-130 jet and fly them, into an area that you're trying to help facilitate maybe a ground invasion for. And then you have a surface. They're like, think about Iran's ballistic missiles, right? Except you have a mobile version of that you can move around. So that can be very, very important because you use those to take out enemies of their missile systems and their anti-air systems and things like that. So that's why those are so important. We're pretty much completely out of those. We're also pretty much out of our Patriot missile systems, which are what we give to Ukraine and Israel to shoot down incoming ballistic missiles. If you didn't see in Ukraine yesterday, Ukraine got drilled by 24 Russian ballistic missiles and shot none of them down. Because it's not just Ukraine doesn't have them anymore, because the United States doesn't have it anymore. Same as Israel. So our ability that's a huge deal too, right? For America, if you were to try to, launch a ground invasion.
And is that like Pete Hegseth? Is that just bad management, or is that
for sure? Well,
how could that be? How could that be?
Of course, because we did.
What do you mean? Is that hey, one of your employees in construction had fell off a building because he wasn't instructed to use a ladder jack. So he's now in the hospital in critical condition. Um, but is that due to your terrible management? Um, I don't know. What the fuck? Oh damn. Uh Napping is pre-metallurgy. Oh, okay, and primitive. Metallurgy is essentially the study of metals. Oh, okay, gotcha. Deals with chemical and physical behavior of the metallic metals, their alloys. Oh, okay. So blacksmithing would be metallurgy, right? Where you're dealing with specific compounds that would improve different kinds of metals, right? For different reasons. If you make a blade, it's pointless doing napping, kind of useful if you're fletching. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, well, it depends. It depends because you can do napping, right? And use that as a tool to kind of um fletch hide. I've seen I've seen a lot of people do that. I've seen a lot of people do that. Yes, blacksmithing is under. Yeah, I figured that's something that I actually got into. Was blacksmithing. Um, I was working on making my own knife because I wanted to do that, but unfortunately, my body couldn't keep up with it anymore. I actually was working on building a little shack in my backyard, and I built a forge. Um, but I couldn't do it anymore. I really wish I could keep up, but I couldn't do it. So
We did 5 months of just bombing, anything with four corners in the desert in Iran for zero strategic or tactical value.
napping, yes, napping can be very risky, and cutting yourself is extremely. I've seen very experienced nappers um cut themselves pretty badly, even working with obsidian, right? Well, not to say that obsidian isn't sharp, because obsidian is the sharpest of any of I don't want to say stones, because obsidian is more glass than it is of stone, but even with flint, it's still very very sharp, very sharp. So without proper medical knowledge, can be, well, yeah, because it can get severely infected, right? If you don't know how to um use, I mean, or at least natural antibiotics, which um there are some stuff that you could use. I think aloe's good. um Maybe what would be good for cleaning the wound, though? um I've seen people use aloe for burns, cuts, stuff like that. So as far as like an ointment created, I do think aloe is used quite a bit in uh, natural medicines. Yeah, I'd recommend against napping at all costs, only for extreme conditions and situations. I would love to get into flint napping, so that's something that I'm going to get into. Something I've never done before, and something that I'd be interested in getting into. Obviously, wearing gloves and stuff like that, but definitely something that I would love to get into. I've had in mind for a long time to build my own bow, create my own arrows, and going out and taking some big game with it. Right. So, aloe is decent. There's plenty of plants and tree oils for making soaps. That's something that I would like to get into too, is making natural soaps. So that's something that I'll be taking a look into. If you happen to know of any sources, Garnet, right off the top of your head that you would like to check out, make sure to talk with me in the Discord. I'd really like to get some information on that. So, but let's see. All right, let's go ahead, get back into it here.
Right. But we showed everybody, look how many bombs we can drop. It's the most Trump thing ever. We dropped so many bombs, right? Because they just, that's same as our Tomahawk missiles. The Pentagon has said we're pretty much out of Tomahawk missiles because we spent them all, bombing little girls' elementary schools, I guess. And so now we can't backfill those until close to 2031, it sounds like. So, yeah, I mean, we're in the, to your point, I don't know how we're going to facilitate some type of ground invasion. Most likely it'll be us trying to take ground around, like, not Karg Island itself, but along the actual coast of the Strait of Hormuz to try to.
Oh, is that the island you were talking about, Karg Island?
But then the issue is if you don't have any ATACMs, you can't knock down Iran's ballistic missile systems anyway. So again, I don't think there was a whole lot of, well, I know there wasn't, but let me give you an example. A whole lot of planning that went into
yeah, I think I know that.
I think everybody's figured that out.
Yeah.
For example of this, I don't know if you remember Trump in the press conference saying nobody could have expected them to close the Strait of Hormuz, that nobody would have ever thought that they would do this. And I'm like, that's funny because you can go 10 months back on my YouTube channel to a video where I talked about if we go to war with Iran, the very first thing they'll do is shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And I went through all the shipping lines and all the effect it would have. And it's like, if some random dumbass like me by myself behind a camera knew that, then I'm pretty sure the Pentagon knew that. But I think it's just a fly by the seat of your pants. I think it's like Donald Trump wakes up and, they tell him something's going on. And he's just like, all right, well, it's Monday. So let's tell the markets that the war's over. Right. And then once Friday hits, then we'll start bombing again. And then, Sunday night, he'll declare peace. And we've just done that for 5 months while we just wasted all our munitions. And his buddies made, billions and billions of dollars off it. To me, I think it's really just a big grift right now. It's also great for the military industrial complex because we're dropping bombs again, right? After Afghanistan, Iraq, Iraq were still there, but after those campaigns ended, they got to make that money, right? You got to drop bombs on brown people, Keith. That's what America's all about, baby, right? We got to keep that machine rolling, So, and I'm sorry to laugh about that, but it's just such a joke at this point that, and none of America doesn't support it at all. What is it, like 25% of Americans, which is just MAGA, I guess, support the war at this point?
Well, morons,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone supports this war who's paying attention. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're going to see, regardless of who Democrats nominate, whether they be a progressive or a centrist in a swing state, we are going to see more likely than not that Democrats are going to win overwhelmingly because it's going to be a rejection of everything happening right now. I don't know if that's going to happen statewide for local races like governors and that sort of thing.
It might be different there.
That's different. But I think when it comes to federal, we are going to see a very overwhelming push.
Can I expand on that for my audience? Okay. My audience is, I have a very broad audience, right? We got progressive leftists and we've got far right, we got everything. But the majority of my audience is disillusioned former Republicans for the most part, right? Independent conservatives, whatever they consider themselves. And I can tell you, I do polls and none of my audience, especially after two big things, after what happened to Thomas Massie, and then after basically 100% of Republicans voted to merge our military with another country, they pretty much said we're done. So my entire audience, I've done polls, like 98% of my audience says that they will not vote for any Republican candidate in the next two elections.
Yeah, listen,
just refusing to.
James Tallarico, we showed this video when I live streamed a couple of days ago that these three nice ladies were interviewed by, I don't even know who interviewed them, but they're like, we're voting for James. We voted for Republicans our entire life. We like the middle school teacher. We don't want the guy, Ken Paxton. So it's like, there's something
releasing PDFs back onto the street.
There is something happening. And it makes me,
well, I mean, when you take a look at what is already well known I mean, anyone who has remotely followed politics already knows that this entire government is filled with PDFs, right? That's no big secret. So people are coming to the unfortunate realization that we are run by a bunch of child grooming, child eating monsters that are more than happy to sell out the American people, right? Regardless of party. And the only thing they care about is getting theirs, right? Getting their profits, their pockets fattened at the expense of the American people. So that's just the truth.
It's nice to know that people are paying attention. Okay. All right, and let's get to this third and final story. Really, the best story, the best of the worst.
The least surprising story ever, by the way.
We were all very surprised. Let's get to this tweet. So someone tweeted this the other day, and they said, "This is Chef Joe Guerra said to Josh Hawley, maybe we should ask Carlos, not a pseudonym, the busboy who saw you kissing your strong date from that quote agency when he was taking out the trash behind the property about your integrity, Josh." And I think we have one more here. And then someone else said, "Don't worry, man. Let it out. Be honest. Leave the GOP and the vicious religious light. Be a good gay man." Now, I think we also have a clip. Hunter Biden alluded to this when he was on the Don Lemon show. When was that? A week ago? He talked about the closet hypocrisy.
Hunter's my new favorite. Look, man.
Who else?
He is one of the funniest guys.
No, I'm not gonna. Like, who else? I'm already in enough lawsuits, Don.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Who else?
Allegedly, who else? I'm not going to do this.
Can you give me initials?
I'm not doing it. You give me. You know as well as I do. I mean, are you asking me if Josh Hawley's gay?
Yes.
Are you asking me if Stephen Miller's gay?
Oh,
yes.
My God.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, let me tell you this.
Are you asking me if Speaker Johnson's gay?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
I believe what Hunter Biden was doing there was saying, "Hey, are you asking me if they're gay?" Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. And look, I'm not a fan of Hunter Biden. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of him. His daddy got him out of trouble when he decided to inject a bunch of paraphernalia and do some really dumb shit with a firearm. So I'm not exactly crazy about Hunter Biden, right? And I don't believe of sudden epiphanies, right? So he's gonna have to do a lot. He's gonna have to really do a lot for me to even remotely consider the idea that this guy might be okay, right? Hunter isn't as funny as Joe. I mean, watching Joe fall up the stairs is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and multiple times. One right after the it was like watching a Charlie Chaplin film. Like it was it was gold, bro. It was gold. Joe actually has my favorite presidential statement. What was that? Hubert on shop under pressure? I was going to China to go see the foothills of Himalaya. Oh man, dude. Yeah, Biden definitely has some really amazing quotes. Really amazing quotes. Like I'm not going to raise my children in a racial jungle. That one's that one's my personal favorite. Oh, because it exposed how fucked up he is. Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun. Huh. What makes more? What makes more? You can have a higher caliber weapon, higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun. It's essentially it essentially turns it into a short. What? A short barrel rifle. Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Joe Biden was hilarious. He was funny. He was comically stupid and comically racist as well. So, there's that.
Absolutely.
Are you asking? You know what I mean?
He's so
Now,
funny, man.
And we also heard Bernie Moreno has had a profile and a male for male website. Like, what is going on with Republicans?
Well, I mean, and it's Republican evangelicals. That's the thing. Like, when you really zoom in on it, it's like that one specific demographic, like Lindsey Graham, right? Like Mike Johnson, Josh Hawley. And again, I did a whole episode like 2 months ago on, like I said before, the closeted gay Republican homosexual crisis. And I'm a big supporter of the gay community. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm not, what I'm not a big supporter of is closeted homosexual Republican politicians who use their positions of power to enact anti-LGBTQ legislation.
Bars.
That is a huge fucking
God.
problem.
Yeah,
bar.
100%.
That's that. I'm like, I mean, come on, right? Like that's it's almost I don't know. I don't want to use any terms, but it's a very
true.
repressed religious thing. I think all of these guys are gay men who, unfortunately, and there might be some other influencers like Benny Johnson. Sorry, you can clip that out if you want.
That is that is
but anyway, allegedly. Sorry.
Allegedly, sure.
Yeah. But my point is like, they can't be openly gay in the evangelical base of the Republican Party, right? It's obviously they're not supportive of anything LGBTQ, so they can't be. So they have to repress it. And then that's what you get. You get all these. I learned this term the other day, Keith. Lavender marriages, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it seems like that's what it is. And
lavender.
I've never heard of that
Marriage. For those who don't know, I think it's when you marry. What is it? Is it you're gay and you marry a woman and she knows that you're gay?
Yeah. And a lot of times it's political, right, and things like that. But yeah, I think a big problem is just that they can't be openly gay, so they've repressed it their entire lives, and then for whatever reason, I think they hate themselves because of that, and so they take that out policy wise by pushing forward policy that's anti-gay because of that. But it does seem to be and also second part to this.
Well, I mean, it could be a factor, but I don't necessarily think it would be. It could be though.
I think also that type of person, the political apparatus really looks for, right? Because if you want to leverage and control people, the number one way to do that is through shame. And if someone like Lindsey Graham, who, let's say, you find out that he's hiring, maybe gay or trans escorts, and you get that information on him, well, you now control that politician. And so they're much, much easier to control. Whereas, in the Democrat Party, you can be an openly gay candidate and no one cares because Americans don't care, right? But in the Republican Party, you can't be that. So they get a lot of leverage on these people as well. And
that's a good point.
And so, and not just that.
Good old blackmail, man. It's been a thing that special interests and foreign interests really love to use since Clinton. Well, let's be real, probably more than likely before Clinton. Definitely before Clinton.
But like, PDFs as well, right? People that have bad back histories. I think they're much, much easier to control politically. So I think,
do you think Ken Paxton is going to think for himself if he's elected to Senate?
Absolutely not.
No.
So I think that's the two-pronged system there that we have is, evangelicals. Yeah, you can't be a part of that. You can't be a part of that club if you're gay. And then also, I think it makes it much easier for them to be controlled politically. So,
but what is so you said some of the highest ranks at Grindr, which, by the way, can you just let them know to fix the app? The app sucks. It's a terrible app. Just let them know.
So
like, I don't know what they used to be better.
So one of my friends, and again, I'm not gonna give up too much, but you know, like in corporations, if you get a C in front of your name, you're one of the chiefs. You're at the top of one of the things. Okay, great dude, straight guy. Actually, our wives are best friends. And so yeah, I get some inside information on what's going on with that. So a couple different things, rumors I can either shore up that are either not true or true, we can go over that you may have heard about. The Republican Party and like TPUSA events shutting down Grindr servers. Unfortunately, that one's not true. So I hate to not that their traffic isn't
shocker
drastically higher, which it is. I'll tell you that.
They have they've made it so their servers no longer buckle under the intense pressure.
So the traffic in those areas, I can confirm, does skyrocket. However, the servers themselves are stable. Okay, so there's a little truth and a lie to that.
Grindr's like, hey, come on, guys, we got good servers. We can we can handle the pressure.
Yeah, we can handle the workload of the Republican Party coming into town. But the next one I want to talk about. Do you remember the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Do you remember hearing about how Grindr was going to sponsor that?
Yeah, I went.
Grindr's like, remember last Thanksgiving? It's a good time, wasn't it? Right? Especially right after the presidential election. Wasn't that great?
To the party.
Oh, you did? Okay,
yeah.
Cool. So I remember hearing about that, and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. This is too funny, right? The Republican Party, the closeted gay crisis party, is going to have Grindr host their event. It almost felt like satire. So I called my buddy. I'm like, is this true? And he's like, oh, yeah, dude, 100% true. We're hosting it, right? And he's like, I can get you a media pass if you want. And I was like, well, it was my wife's birthday, so I couldn't go. Too bad, because I would have gone. And I was like, well, can you tell me about, all this closeted gay politician crisis? And he's like, well, I can't get like too much into potentially what's going on, but he's like, I can get you with our brand manager, right? So it's the guy who would like coordinate with the Republican Party to do that, and was going to get me an interview for it after the dinner happened. And then we all saw what happened with the assassination attempt.
Oh yeah.
And so it all got canceled. I wasn't able to do it, but they were like, dude, as long as they're like, we don't give a shit. As long as you're not going to be anti-gay, well, yeah, we'll do interviews with you and tell you all about how active the Republican Party is on our politicians are on it. They wouldn't give me names, but they're like, yeah, it's way more than you think. Way more than
I bet you though, they know.
Of course they know.
They know.
Yeah, you have to sign up
accounts
for it, right?
And yeah.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, but so they were like, we can't divulge actual names. But
release
like,
the Grindr files. Release
there's definitely Grindr files, which is just hilarious, right? Because it's just like another one of those things of, I'm just like,
I want unredacted documentation of the co-conspirators. Release that should be a thing, man. That should be a thing. Release the Grindr files.
Let your freak flag fly, man. Like, who cares at this point? It's 2026. Right. No one cares. Yeah, well, I guess maybe does. The very religious sect, but other than that, the rest of the country cares.
No. This has been kind of thoroughly vetted, and everyone's just like, whatever.
Yeah, right. That's like in our country, the problems we have with candidates. It's like all the things you find out about some of these people. That's like the least thing anybody.
Well, yeah. I don't really care. I mean, I have gay friends, right? And I don't give a fuck, right? It's. I mean, I don't know why we would compare them to PDFs, right? Because I think that's pretty disrespectful. But Nate does put it pretty well there. All the things you could find out to find out that they're gay, that's not really a problem. Okay, I mean, look at some of our founding fathers, bro. Right, like Benjamin Franklin. My bro, he was participating in orgies, bro. Like, that's facts, bro. I mean, he was laying it down, right? Like he was everywhere. Okay, so for someone to be gay and in politics, I don't really give a shit. Okay, um, so you know, but if you're PDF, well, you can get sent to Idaho.
He's worried about right now.
Oh my God. Well, Nate, this has been so nice. I hope we can do this again.
Well, what we should do,
I'm happily coming on your channel.
Yeah.
We're trying to do live streams. We want to do more live streams.
That's what I was just going to pitch. So I have pretty big live streams, and we do a weekly show just like this. So if you want to do a live stream collab, we can both live stream together.
You just let me know.
I think that'd be awesome. Yeah. So we'll definitely schedule one of those. So yeah, it's awesome, man. I'm super glad to been able to meet you and reach out and collab. Yeah. And also what I wanted this to be a good demonstration for your audience is like, there is a lot of independents and conservatives who are also fed up with this, who are also pro so many of the populist things. That I'm really trying to like kind of get away from this really hardcore left versus right divide in America and get us to, I think we agree on probably 70-80% of things. Most of us as populist, right or left. And I think if we could do more stuff like this across the aisle, although it's not like I'm a far right guy or anything like that, but it would show people like we as Americans, we have a lot in common, and we could probably figure these things out together.
Billionaires want us to be separated. 100%. They want us to feel divided because then it's the oldest trick, right? Yep. If you're divided, you're more easier to conquer. But yeah, that's why these conversations are important. And we do have so much more in common than we do have different. And it's when that's why they don't want us talking to each other. Because when we do, it's like, wait a second, you want healthcare? Wait, you think the bombing is stupid? Wait, you think the military is being spent? Too much money being spent? It's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Who are you?
So no, I think these conversations are really good. Excuse me, and really important for America to see that like we are in this together, and at some point, if we could ever figure that out together, the elite apparatus would be in big trouble.
Well, I would wager to say we are figuring it out, and that's the reason why we're seeing more populist candidates win, because people are they're just fed up, and they're able to get their information from places they weren't able to 10 years ago.
If you sorry to interrupt there. If you go to my video I just did on the Michigan race, and again, my audience is heavily, at least leans right or conservative, and you go to that comment section, 100% of my audience is cheering on Abdul Saeed winning.
Wow.
So why would 100% of the conservative base be cheering on a democratic socialist win?
Yeah. I knew you were going to say something about that. Yeah. Well, there you go. No. Hopefully one day, this channel becomes. We are figuring it out 100%. 100%, bro. 100%. Hopefully, one of these days we become at least something remotely as big as these guys. I would love to see something like that, right? Because again, I have a lot of knowledge, a lot of information that I would love for all of America to know. But it's just a matter of time. I've had people tell me that, your channel's going to blow up. You're going to blow up, bro. And, just kind of staying consistent, doing what I'm doing. And, we'll just gonna see how it happens, right? But I more so want this channel to blow up because I want America to know the things that I know, especially when it comes to MLMs, multi-level marketing companies. Because not a lot of other channels are talking about multi-level marketing companies. There's just not, right? And it's something that really needs to be talked about. Mission that's so in the back. Hey, guard it. get with me after. I'm gonna get with you after stream, because I think what would be really interesting is having a conversation, right? Doing a little interview. I think because I used to do something like that, right? I used to have, well, I mean, I still do have people come on to the channel, right, and play with me games and stuff like that. But I used to bring people onto the channel and just talk about stuff, you know. And I would really like to start doing that again. I really like to start doing that again. I mean, I've had a number of viewers come on and just talk about whatever, right? So something that we could do. But anyways,
a race. Well, to your point is, I mean, we're now at this point across the aisle. You have people
right, true,
pretty far on the right that are populists that are going, I would rather have the Democrat socialist than the, mainstream corporate lobbying foreign investment candidate. So it's pretty wild that, and I think Thomas Massey is another example of that for people on the left, or like, I don't agree with everything this guy says, but hey, he's a populist who's actually trying to stand up against Donald Trump and the administration and things.
Yeah,
like that.
I'm telling you, there's a realignment. There's a realignment happening, and I can see it on the ground. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Well, hopefully that happens a lot sooner than later. 6,000 comments. Wow. Let's see. How big is this guy? 1.3 million. That's crazy. Don't forget, the reason we are there was to distract. Distract from the e-files. Yep, 100%. Sorry, E-Trump files. E-Trump files. Yep. That military budget is obviously all about waste, fraud, and abuse for real. 100%. Let's see. The war is not meant to be won, but to be continuous. Orwell, 1984. Dude, 100%, dude. 100%. 1984, man. I have to read that book. I have to, bro. None of these wars were for nothing. They were to make the ruling classes even richer. 100%. Yeah. We will read one more. Let's see. The military budget is in the trillions, and soldiers don't have food or toothpaste. Matter of fact, as an E4, I was making $39,000 a year. $39,000 a year as a senior airman. While athletes are making millions of dollars, right? While we are sending $3.8 billion a year on top of $500 million a year to our greatest ally. Make it make sense, right? Make it make sense. So, but anyways, that's going to go ahead and do it for tonight. I just thought that interview was pretty interesting. And like I said, a lot of it was blind reaction. I wanted to watch it with you guys live. And yeah, so that was a fun little interview. We're gonna have to start doing that a little bit more often. I really enjoyed that. I hope you guys did too. So if you guys enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like on the way out, subscribe, follow, do all that stuff. Helps the channel, helps my other socials, helps the algorithm push my other socials, and helps push the channel as well. So I could only make logical things make sense. Well, good point. Very, very good point. That is something that is sorely lacking today, unfortunately. But, anyways. So, I'm going to go ahead and close the stream out here. Thanks so much for popping in, guys. I love every single one of you. You guys have an amazing night, and I will see you tomorrow. Check back with us tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys ever get confused on when I go live, just make sure you guys take a look at my YouTube page. I will let you guys know if that time changes. But tomorrow we'll be doing some gaming, we'll be doing some ARC, and just trying to see whatever we get into with that. So, anyways, you guys have a great night. Again, love you all, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys, and bye, Guarded. Appreciate you stopping in and hanging out for the whole stream. Thanks, man. Love you, buddy. and I will see you soon. Okay. All right. And please make sure you get to feeling better. Okay. Take care of yourself. Make sure you say hello to the family for me as well. All right.